Hello everyone, I want to share with you certain thoughts uh, on the Jewish people today, and a bit deeper understanding of why we're here, what's our mission, and also the idea of our exile and going out of Egypt, and what does it represent for us. There are a lot of questions, and we're going to try to get into it and have more clarity with the help of God. So I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, and hopefully we'll try to answer them. Obviously they're all connected, and we'll try to have the connect all those questions together. So here are the questions. The first question is, what does going out of Egypt mean today in 2018 in our generations? As we know, everything that we read in the Torah has a practical application for today, and therefore we need to figure out what it is. So what does Egypt mean today, being in exile, and how does it apply to our life? Another question is, why did Hashem split Adam Harishon? We know Adam Harishon was male and female. It was one body, one soul, and he was both male and female. Very often we think of Adam as man, and he took Eve and made the woman, but the woman was already with Adam. So Adam was not a man or a woman, he was both, as the verse says directly. So why did God decide to actually split Adam? He could have done it from the very beginning. Why did he call his name first Isha? Adam called the name of his wife Isha, and after that, after the sin, he actually changed his mind and called her Hava. And what's the meaning of Hava? Then another question is, what did we go actually into Galus, in exile, in the first place? Where did it start off? What's the starting point? So why do we have to go through that? Why? The second question, another question is, why we have the prayer Shomea Tefillah in the Siddur. We pray Baruch Ata Hashem Shomea Tefillah. It was one of the 13 requests that we pray for in our Shmoneh Esrei. And the question is, it's a bit strange. I ask God to pray, to listen to my prayers. Well, obviously, if I'm actually praying to God and asking things, obviously I believe that God listens to my prayers. So why do we have that special blessing? It seems out of place or unnecessary. Another question is, why does it say Vaigaresh, when God decided to send us out of Gan Eden? God says Vaigaresh, and Vaigaresh means divorce. He divorced us, separated us from Gan Eden, and it's a very strange term that seemed to be not the right term for taking us out from Gan Eden for our sin. Then why didn't it rain until men came to pray for it? When God created the world, and he didn't want the rain to fall until Adam actually prayed for it. Why is that? And then why, another question is, why do we have so many divorces today? Why it seems that our relationship between men and men has never been that catastrophic, and we have never in the past have so many divorces. Why is the feminist movement today so big? It's in specific in that generation that there was a rise from the women and it's in our generation, this is like a huge topic on a daily basis. And why so many problems also with homosexuality and the progress of gender. This is also a hot topic that is almost in everyday newspaper. So I think that's it for the questions. Already a lot of questions, and they all seem to be disconnected, but we're going to see that really they're all part of the same message, I believe, and we're going to try to answer. So, the ultimate question really that binds everything together, in my opinion, is that what is the ultimate message that the Jewish people have for the world? We know, as I always speak about, the Jewish people are here to bring a mission to the world, to bring a message to the world. We have God chose people who wanted to be part of that mission, and we represent, so to speak, the message, and we're supposed to be role models for the rest of the world, so that the world recognizes something through our mission. So this is really where everything is gonna lead us to, is what's the ultimate message. So let's start this journey of understanding all of that. So it's really, it starts, if we think, where did it all start, that the Jews went in Egypt? And why were the Jews in Egypt? Now we know Mitzrayim, which means Meitzar, the exile, represents all the exiles that existed in history. And Mitzrayim comes from the word Meitzar, which means narrow, blocked, constricted. So we as Jews, we went through a phase of being stuck with a certain problem, and which is the problems that will arise throughout all the generations. But this one problem that we're going to see is constantly coming again and again. In our generation, is coming out more than ever, because whatever happens at the end of time, and we know we are close to the end of the 6,000 years, which is the end of our ultimate power of free choice to make a difference in the world and get ready for the next world. Okay, so let's try to understand why today we seem to deal with actually what happens at the beginning. It says in the Chazal, Sof Maaseh Machshava Tchila, the last actions that Hashem made are connected to the first ideas and concepts that God had in mind. Also, we know when we come to the end of time, it goes, so to speak, it's like a circle. When we go out of time, we go back to the beginning. So to fix the beginning, the end, we need to fix the beginning. So we went in exile. Exile didn't start with the assimilation of the Jews in Egypt. It didn't start with the brothers selling Yosef. It started much earlier with Abram Avinu. When Avram asked, Bema Eda, with what would I know that I'm going to inherit the land of Israel, which was God's promise, which ultimately means, from how do I know that the Jews are going to be able to live and all the generations to come eventually inherit the land throughout all generations, because we make a lot of mistakes, and there's a lot of challenges. So how do I know ultimately that the Jews are going to inherit the land? So God responds, which according to some opinion, it was a kind of punishment for Adam asking a lack of trust. That Abraham asked that, how do you know? What do you mean? I'm God, and what I say happens. But we're not going to take this approach. A lot of Chazal say it was absolutely not a punishment. It was actually a revelation of the process necessary to actually inherit the land. So God says, you know how you're going to know that the Jews are going to inherit the land and go to Israel is through this process of going down to Egypt. And for 400 years, meaning they're going to be in a country, in exile in a country, and that's going to last about 400 years from the birth, basically, of Yitzchak. So in that time, God, at that time with Abram, to explain how it was happened, God made a breeze and He made him split animals. He made a covenant and made him go through split animals. But in order to give him this vision, this prophecy, it says the word tardema. God made him fall asleep, so to speak. I say so to speak because the word tardema doesn't necessarily mean falling asleep. It's a different word than sleeping. It's a type of sleeping vision and type of prophecy, a sleep that leads you to prophecy. And it's a word that appears only once before in the Chumash, and the Baal HaTurim says it appears with Adam Arishon, that when God decided to split man, because Adam didn't recognize, he didn't find a mate that is meant for him, he decides to make a tardema fall on Adam Arishon, and then he split Avram. Also, in the writings of Kabbalah, it says Bema Eda, and Bema is a hint, a remez of Ma. It's the gematria numerical value of 45, which correspond to Adam, which is the numerical value of 45 also. So that gives us another hint that Avram is directly connected to Adam. We know in Kabbalah also they speak that Avram is the first one who started the tikkun of Adam Arishon, the fixing of Adam Arishon. So, Avram and Sarah. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and we're going to go back to it. Another thing that we have to mention is that in the writings of the Arizal, also in Kabbalah, the Arizal explains that really the generation of Jews who went down to Egypt, the 70 souls that went down to Egypt, which represents the soul of the Jews, they are really a reincarnation of the souls that were alive during the Dor HaFlaga, during the Tower of Babel, and they need to fix the mistake of the Tower of Babel. And the people from Tower of Babel were actually souls that were there during the flood, just before the flood of Noah, and who got destroyed because they misbehaved, they were immoral, and those souls come from from the mistake that Adam Arishon. Rashi says that when Hashem speaks about Adam having children again with his wife, about Shes, which is in 4th chapter, verse 25, then Adam knew his wife again, Vayeda Adam od et ishto, Batelet ben tikra eshemo Shes. And he had a son whose name was Shes. So Rashi says right there, when it says od, that Adam again had children, it says because to teach us that he was separated from his wife. He was separated from his wife after he sinned. He separated from his wife 130 years, and during those 130 years, there was a waste of seed as a consequence of not being with his wife, and those seeds were souls that needed to be fixed, and those are the souls that were needed fixing and were reincarnated in the time of Noah, as we said. So we see that really all the souls that went down to Egypt that needed a fixation and that became eventually the Jewish people were the souls that really came out as a consequence of the separation between Adam and Eve during 130 years. Adam Rishon had decided to do that as in a way to repent, to the teshuvah, and to fix his sin. So we see here that if we ask again the question, why were the Jewish people in Egypt, we go back to the very beginning where it all started, not just with Abram Avinu, but with the moment when Adam Rishon and Eve were separated. So what does that mean? What's the connection? What does that teach us? It teaches us, first of all, that Adam first exile, so to speak, the exile of man is a result of the problem in the relationship that Adam had with his wife, that men have with women. Now, if we ask why men and women were separated in the first place, why God did the split, basically what happens is that Adam didn't understand that his main purpose in being created was to have intimate relation with God. Rashi says that the reason that Rashi explains that Adam didn't find a zivug when he was naming all the animals that God brought in front of him, and Adam Arishon didn't find a mate that was similar to him. Now, a mate that was similar to him, Adam was made in the image of God, and therefore the most appropriate mate, so to speak, for man was God himself. And in a way, it's as if Adam didn't recognize that it was possible for man to have a deep relationship with God. No, God is in heaven, he's holy, he's up there, and Rashi says man saw himself as one, just like God in heaven, and is one on earth, and he's going to be like a God on earth, and alone, and just be a giver, a power controller, and that were missing something, because he didn't understand that part of him was also female. He didn't see the female part of himself. He only saw himself as male function. Now, when I say male and female, sometimes it's switched, but when we say male in Judaism or in Kabbalah, we're saying that he's the main provider, he's a giver, he's the power of giving mostly, and the woman is the power of receiving what the man gives, and the power to give back something with what she receives, something newer, more beautiful, something real, which we see in the biological function of men and women. The man gives the seed, gives the potential, and the woman takes the potential, receives the potential, and makes something real out of it, makes a child. So this gives us a hint on the fact that Adam didn't recognize that he was supposed to have the God's wife, so to speak, and that the relationship that is really the highest relationship that we should strive to have as a human being is a relationship between husband and wife with God, and therefore you have so many hints of that. First of all, when God sends Adam out of Gan Eden, and we say Vaigaresh, it's like God decided to divorce Adam. And interesting, the Midrash as a whole and the Gemara has a whole discussion when someone divorced someone else, can he get remarried or not? It's not that simple. If God divorced us, can we still get back together? So the whole discussion brings us to an understanding, and actually the fight of many groups, spiritual groups that have attacked Judaism have often said or claimed that God has abandoned the Jewish people and now needs a new way to relate to God and a new nation or a new Messiah or whatever, but God has abandoned the Jewish people. Now, we see with Abraham and with the giving of the Torah and the teachings that we have there, that God make an eternal bris, an eternal covenant, that no matter what the separation is never going to be a real divorce, a full separation. It's going to be a temporary separation between husband and wife. We have very beautiful books like Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs written by King Solomon, that speaks about the relationship between God and the Jewish people and the nations also, but that God is like the husband and we are the wife. And not only that, the whole going out of Egypt in the writings of the rabbis, the way they explains it is that God married us, he took us out, and we were a young woman, and he married us at Mount Sinai, and Mount Sinai was he gave us the marriage contract, which is the Torah. Some say it was the ring, and we got married. That's why on Shavuot, when we celebrate the receiving of the Torah, we make a chuppah, which is a marriage canopy, to celebrate our marriage with God. So what we're trying to start to see here is that God is trying to teach us that the root of our problem in this world, of the Jewish problem in this world, is that we are not really able to understand our proper place as men, our proper place as women. That the man needs to recognize the greatness of the woman and the greatness of who she is, and that she has to learn her function so that man himself can also be a wife for God. Man has to learn from women how to be a woman for God. And therefore it all started there, where Adam HaRishon didn't recognize that part of him, that his female part, his female side, needs to be activated, so to speak. And by activating it, he's going to know how to relate to God on a very intimate level down in this world. So really, this whole exile is the exile of the understanding of the relationship men and women are supposed to have, and of the understanding that we are supposed to bring God in our life, just like a husband and wife are supposed to live together. So we see that problem from Adam when he calls his wife Isha. Why does he call his wife Isha? He calls his wife Isha because And right, the Torah says itself that he says, you're a woman, that's because you come out of me, so you're flesh of my flesh, so you're an extension of Ish. You're nothing else than that, something like me. Now, although there's some truth to it, there's also some lie to it, because what do you mean? He took part of you that is not the part that you're really understanding, and therefore you're missing the point. She's not just an extension of you, she's a part of you that has never been activated, and you need to recognize what it is. A woman is not meant to be a man. Ish, Isha is basically the same letters. When Adam Arishon, after the sin, understand that he made a mistake in recognizing who she is and respecting her greatness and her quality, her mission. So he says, your name is going to be Hava. So let me read you the words inside. It's right here. So he says, it's the first chapter 3, verse 20. He says, sorry for the delay. Okay, he says, ויקרא אדם שם אשתו חווה, כי היא הייתה אם כל חי. So he called her, he recognized as Hava, which is the mother of all living. So what is interesting, if you take the name Yud K Vav K, you're gonna find when you take the letters Yud Vav Daled, and then Hey Aleph, and Vav Aleph Vav, and Hey Aleph, and you take just the letters that complete the words which calls the Milui. Those letters have the gematria of Hava, 19. So meaning that within the name of God that needs to be revealed in this physical world, and then the Hava is what is going to enable to reveal God's full involvement with us, is God's full relationship and full, I would say, his full involvement with us. So basically, Hava is what's going to enable us to make God our ultimate mate in this world. Now, interestingly, this is written just after God says the punishment that Adam is having, and just before he says, by the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread until you return to the ground from which you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust shall you return. God is kind of saying, you were taken from something, and you're not understanding that you're nothing without that thing. You have to go back to humility. Dust is always a symbol of humility, and therefore God is trying to teach a lesson of humility, that you have to recognize, okay, Eve is taken from you, and you were taken from the earth, and now you have to fix the earth that you're taken from. Meaning, do you realize that really, actually, you are important? You're nothing, but you're important. But if you don't recognize your own importance, then there's no point of you living either. So it's as if he's giving the message that, hey, Hava was taken from you, and you didn't recognize her importance, and because of that, you in a way have to go back to the source where you come from. The whole process of you being created, all that, is the same process as Eve being created. So I think that was just a hint of Adam realizing that since it comes just before him naming the name of his wife Hava. Now Hava, the Baal HaTurim explains, and many others, the Hava comes from the word declaring, speaking, and that the role of the woman, as I learned from my Rebbe, the role of the woman is to really bring out what man's inner thoughts, emotions are. She helps him express himself, the inner part of himself. And a woman, that's the quality of a woman, that she's able to bring out the deep part of us, the emotional part, the sensitive part, and we know women have the power of speech, and they're able to reveal it more than men. Adam started recognizing that, and therefore we start realizing that really that whole split of Adam is that whole separation. Not only he needs to recognize that, but he got split from Gan Eden, from his wife, and he's separated for 130 years, and he really was struggling to reconnect to that part of himself that is supposed to be intimate with God, and to reconnect to what a woman is. So so the reason we went into Galus is because we have to learn to reconnect to God. We need to learn to have real relationship. So how does it play out in our everyday life? It plays out that we have to learn to be married. You have to learn to be a real husband. And we have to learn to, as a message more for the man, to recognize the power of the woman. And the reason we have today so many problems with gender, homosexuality, and with the rising of the feminist movement is because the concept of woman is coming back, and man needs to fix that final problem of recognizing what a woman is, because until a man recognizes really what a woman is, he's not going to be able to have a real deep relationship, intimate relationship with God here in this world. And that problem of feeling I'm a man, I'm a woman, what's the role of the man, what's the role of a woman, brings all types of different emotional and psychological struggle in knowing what a man is and what a woman is, and how it works, how a couple is supposed to work, what's the right role for each one, and because there's confusion between who is who, then and what's the role of each, then we end up mixing them each other, and the man wants to be a woman, the woman wants to be a man, and we don't know what a man is and what a woman is, and it brings us into a struggle that we have today. Now, why a woman was here to also bring out and show man that he needs to be humble. The woman is here to remind him that he's not God on earth. That's what the split Rashi says. He's going to think he's man on earth. So woman here is constantly here to remind us, hey, you're not just a man. You're also a woman, and you need to receive. You need to be humble and receive from God. You cannot do it without God. Just like a man cannot have a child without a man, and a man cannot be complete without a woman, then you need to understand that God is looking for you for completeness, and you need to look for God for completeness. And you need to learn to receive from God to have a real intimate relationship with Him. So the idea here is, again, that we're looking for real love, real connection with God. Now, how do we get there? How do we go out of galus, of exile? We go out of exile by really getting married, by learning how to be married, learning how to be one. The exile of Egypt, the exile of the couple, the exile of the relationship between man and woman. Now, trying to answer why God didn't make rain come down until man came, Rashi says that man needed to recognize the goodness of the rain and recognize that everything comes from above, and need to recognize that it's good and no good will come in the world without that rain, and he needs to ask for that rain, pray for that rain. God was asking Adam to recognize that he needs God, he needs to pray to God, and that was going to enable him to feel that this part, he plays a role. Even though he's a woman, is a receiving in terms of the relation between him and God, he needs to learn to be a receiver, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a lower level. It's not second class. It's God needs us to have that relationship, and he needs us because God wants that relationship. So we have to understand the same thing with woman. The woman, even though she is the receiver, she is necessary for man to be complete and to have a full relationship. And there's nothing bad or lower in being a receiver. On the contrary, there's nothing greater, because she completes the relationship. She makes it perfect. She makes it whole and bring a full reality to it. So God made sure that Adam prays for rain, and to recognize that and recognize the good. So as men, we need to pray to God to recognize all the good that he gives us. Now that's where it starts with Shomei Tefillah, the question that we had before: why does God pray? Why do we during Shmoneh Esrei have a special prayer, Shomei Tefillah? Because men need to recognize that this is something so important that we need even to pray and pray and recognize that the power of prayer is the greatest gift. The power of speech, the power of being able to say thank you and to recognize the good is one of the greatest gifts we can have from God, and we need to be aware of its power and of its importance for our relationship with God. When we are married, or we want to get married, we have to recognize the most important power we have is our power of speech, and that unless we constantly show gratitude to our wife and we express, and if you can ask almost any therapist and you read all the books about the best relationship between husband and wife, it's constantly said you need to be constantly have Hakar Satov, gratitude, recognizing the good. This is the most important tool you have for a good marriage. The more you recognize the good in the other, which is what Adam missed in finding the woman in him, the more he's gonna miss the point and not be able to have a relationship with his wife and with God. So really, we're coming to the end. Try to understand really what's our ultimate goal. What's the ultimate message of the Jewish people? The ultimate message with Jewish people is that we have to show the world that there is that it's possible for a human being to have a deep, intense, intimate relationship with God, just like a man and a woman, as high. There are many different relationships you can have, but that's the climax. And that was Abram's main focus. Abraham didn't come teach about God. He went to study in the yeshiva of Shem and Ever. People knew about God. It was not too long after Noach, and the people were doing avodah zarah is as if saying we don't need that relationship. Avodah zarah was serving themselves. It was completely male oriented, a male mentality. My gods are the ones who serve me and give me what I need. That's the way I want. That's not a real relationship. A real relationship is you have to give to the woman the way she wants. It's not about you, it's about her. You become a giver, and instead of not just a receiver, but in order to give, you have to learn to receive also. So interestingly, this is, I believe, the secret of why it says that when Eve conceived Cain with Adam, she understood it was after in the Chumash order, it was after they were taken out of Gan Eden after the sin, and it says that why did she call her name Cain? Vatomer kanisi ish es Hashem. I acquired a man with Hashem. Now, what does that mean? I acquired a man with Hashem. I acquired a child. It was teaching. Eve understood, Hava understood that it's possible to have a relationship with God, like husband and wife. I can have a child with Hashem. It's not just me and my husband. It's just not me and me, so to speak. Husband and wife, men in this world. It's man and God. Now we can have a really deep relationship with God, intimate relationship with God. And our children is also made with God. There's three partners, not two partners, three partners, man, woman, and God. So that's basically the idea that we as Jewish people, we need to work on our marriages. We need to show the world what a true relationship between husband and wife is. A man has to look at his wife like the most precious thing in the world. He has to thank her and laud her and love her as much as possible, and that and recognize the good in her and become a giver and accepting also to receive back. When man does that, he can finally be a role model and do the same thing with God and have that intimate relationship with God. And basically what we need to do to fix the end, we need to fix the beginning. The beginning was the misunderstanding of who we are as human beings. That we're human beings, we're all supposed to be the wife of God. And in a way, the split of the nation, of the Jewish people and nation, is also the same idea of the splitting of Adam and Eve. And we need to fix that. Originally, we're supposed to be one nation that serves God, not Jews and non-Jews. Now, with that split was necessary for Jews and non-Jews. But in Kabbalah, I speak of Jews as the husband and the non-Jews as the wife. So then we need to also have a relationship between each other, Jews and non-Jews, that is similar to male-female relationship, and fix and love each other and recognize the good in each other, that we need each other, and that really we're one big people, one united world, one united nation that is really here to have a deep relationship with God in this world. So I hope it gave you some enlightenment, and that it will help us become better spouses, but especially to the men. The men need to step up their game and become better husband. I'm speaking to myself, obviously, first, but the better husband will be. And the more we praise our wife, the more gratitude we have for our wife and the qualities in our wife, the more we'll be able to understand how God looks at us, how much He loves us, and do the same, recognize the greatness of being a woman for God, and not rejecting that position of being a woman for God, because being a woman for God is nothing more amazing in the world. Obviously, we're speaking on a very spiritual level. It's not physical, a very deep concept. But may we be able to tap into it and fulfill our ultimate mission on this world, is to become the wife of God with love and passion. Thank you for listening.